See, what I think we should do with this whole zero punctuation rule, I'm fine with there being no floating punctuation. Yes, I think there should be quest giver highlighting, but I think if you're going to handle it that way, it needs to be based on a state system as to whether or not you've already discovered this person as a quest giver. That's why we have things like this central job board. It's why you can go up and talk to people and ask them if they have any work. I'm fine with walking into a town that you've never laid eyes on ever in your life and not knowing who's giving this quest, that quest, or the other. But as soon as you get on the central job board and you see this guy by this name, this so-and-so, who, you know, maybe even in the heads-up display, it's got a picture of the poor guy, is offering this quest or something else, let's just agree that as a convenience factor, we could at least offer the ability for people to be able to spot him from across the room, even if he's seated and facing the other direction. Let's not force our players to go on great big wandering treasure hunts just to find the guy they should be talking to get a quest from.
Yeah, okay. Problem solved.
Does anybody have a significant problem with that?
Well, especially when you bring in the case of you can just phone him. If you want to see if he's got any, if you already know who he is, you can just phone him and ask him, "Do you have any jobs?"
Sure. I mean, or something through the job board or something, you know, similar.
Yeah. And this also solves the central quest giver problem because he'll be highlighted after you talk to him.
After you know that he's got quests to give.
Yes.
Which means maybe you did just walk up and randomly talk to him.
Okay.
I do agree with Gav in the sense that if someone has a quest, there should be some sort of tie into their demeanor that they have a quest, depending upon. I'm trying to think of a good way of describing it. It goes back to the guy dying on the side of the road. You wouldn't. If he was just standing there minding his own business, you wouldn't talk to him. You'd walk straight past. But it's where it goes from being it becomes overly overt, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
But at the same time, though, I did have a tiny exception to what Gavin said. I think for the majority, if you do walk into a peasant, he should have peasant-like things to tell you. Or if you do walk into the office, the quest should be like, go hand me, 2 pieces of paper from across the hall. But
the Office Space quest chain. Have you seen my stapler?
But
that makes perfect sense.
That's essentially The Sims.
There should be occasionally like 1 or 2 random things like the office. You run into an office worker and he says, "I really hate my boss. Here's 10,000 credits to go kill him." They should be still topical, but there should be varying levels of interestingness, and the most of the quests should be uninteresting, but maybe 1 or 2 of them should be interesting to kind of actually encourage people to go around and look for the interesting quests. Without, and this is, I don't know, just stuff. I can't.
No, okay. So there you go. No, that's okay. Whether we don't have punctuation is beside the point. I really do think that under an ideal situation, you have some means by which you can pick someone out of a crowd at a distance to help people see that they need to go talk to somebody. Because a lot of folks really are going to be focused on this whole idea of questing. Now, somebody who's having the conniption fit? Is that Nelson?
Yeah.
Nelson?
That was the sneeze.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Bless you.
Okay, just making sure, because sometimes you make sounds like that when you've got a point. Now, Gavin, you've been really quiet. Did you explode and die earlier? Or are you
As
okay
it goes, I was choking on coffee that I'd inhaled the wrong way for about the first 2 minutes of the video until I spoke.
Help everybody who's watching the video right now. How do you inhale coffee the right way?
Stand on your head.
Okay, good enough.
Yes. Well, I think I've expressed my views on this subject.
Okay. What's the next thing that you have, Zach?
Oh goodness. The next several things, because we could go in a whole bunch of different directions. The next point that I'm gonna pick on is that, and this one's kind of fun. Unless you have
You should so split the videos there.
After
Force
5
people
minutes?
No, it's just to force people to... Unless you have, then...
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
I love the tension of writing this out. You should, okay, unless you have a physical turn-in, you should be able to turn in your quest remotely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put a star next to this.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, too.
Hang on. Let me get my star out first. That's important. There's my star, okay? That's a really crappy star. That's a slightly better star, but still pretty crappy. The star basically ties into... barring availability. Meaning, if the whole thing were based on your ability to communicate, meaning, I've got a walkie-talkie, a great big giant shoebox-sized walkie-talkie with a whip antenna on the side of it, and that's how I turn in all of my quests. But dang it, today there's inclement weather and I'm behind a whole bunch of mountain ranges and I just can't get a signal. Well, I'm going to have to get closer or get into a good signal location before I can turn this quest in and say the job's done. Outside of that, unless I've actually got a physical package or, a bag of something that I've got to give to a guy in exchange for money, Gavin, then I should be able to turn everything in from a distance.
Well, that brings up the question, why do you even really need to turn anything in at all? I mean, let's say, for example, there's a quest to go wash somebody's feet, and you go wash that person's feet, they're going to phone the quest giver and say, hey, this guy washed my feet. The quest giver's going to say, oh, awesome, let's go deposit 200 credits in this guy's account.
Well, does anybody have a problem with this idea?
No. This is, this comes, I'm envisaging the way they do it. It's very similar to the way they do it in Eve, whereby if exactly what you're saying, if the quest is bring me 300 of these, well then obviously you're going to have to come back to him with the 300 of those. But if the quest is go and kill this person, really, you can just ring him up, say it's done. Look at tomorrow's newspaper, and then you'll get paid. But equally, you might not get paid straight away if you turn a quest in remotely.
Sure,
that would be an interesting, because it might be worth your while.
I don't know if I would...
If you needed the money in a hurry, it might be worth your while to go back and hand it over and get the cash on delivery, because there could be, some sort of temporary escrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's another point that I'm going to get into. But Nelson, the point that you had mentioned was what? One more time.
Why do you even need to say
you turn it in at all? Why do you need to turn it in at all? Well, that kind of ties into another point that I had in my stipulations, is that we should at least consider. Consider auto turn-ins. I can see trying to say that and write at the same time. Now, this, if it were me, this would be something that I would have as an option. And the reason I say that is that, you may... here's just this is going to be an edge case, okay? But I don't want to force my ideals on anybody. There's a quest in WoW, and I can't remember... I think it's in Grizzly Hills out in Northrend. I'm trying to remember, but you're given this item that turns you into a wolf. Is the neatest thing ever when you first get your hands on it. And you turn into this wolf and you go talk this other werewolf creature and you do all these quests for them. And then at the end of the quest chain, you have to give back this little item that turns you into a wolf. I didn't turn the quest in for weeks on end because I made all kinds of use of being able to turn into a wolf whenever I was in the Grizzly Hills area. I wouldn't want to force somebody to just automatically see their quest complete, and if anything like that happened, I mean, maybe they're not ready to say, hey, I'm actually done. For whatever a player's reasoning might be, they might want that actual delay in there between when the job gets done and when they say it's done. So
could you give me one example of that happening when it's not an item that you have to turn in? Because in that case, part of the quest at the end to complete it is to turn in that item. So it's not a matter of you can't even do that remotely. I mean, what happens? Does your doohickey just disappear out of your inventory if you do that remotely? No, there has to be something that you have to go back to that person to give that item back.
Or at the very least, make it to somewhere, like a post office. Or it does seem to me that I haven't got a problem with the whole auto turn-ins thing. But except what Nelson said, really, I can't see a situation where it would become
You do get into situations. They did a lot. They did a lot of this in Cataclysm, where you have phasing in a particular area, where once you've completed a quest or a quest chain, you enter a different phase of that zone, where you're grouped together with all the other players who completed that quest. If you wanted to go help your friend with an earlier quest in that quest chain, it would be advantageous for you not to have turned in the quest even though you finished it.
But that leads, that's a continuity issue that I thought we were going to not deal with anyway. I mean, were we ever going to introduce that phasing doohickey thing to?
I'm not suggesting you do. That's the thing. That really jumped out at me immediately.
I have been questing with folks who do get upset if you get way too far ahead and start turning all your stuff in. If you're just trying to keep everybody on the same page, I don't have a problem with having to phone up and say, "Hey, yeah, the job is done." The other thing too is you're kind of tying into an even deeper, almost like a psychic system of something knowing that you did just wash this character's feet, and suddenly magically the person who's paying you to do it just magically knows that the job was done. And sure, yeah, well, I have nanomachines in my inner ear that track the moment that I dried off the last toe, and those transfer to signal immediately.
Well, here's the issue, though. I mean, because in my example, I said the person who got his feet washed called up the quest giver and said, "Hey, that this person you sent over did an awesome job." But if you take that example that you just came up with, where that person doesn't phone up the original quest giver, what's stopping your character from lying and saying, "Hey, I washed this guy's feet, give me my money"? And they're like, "Oh, great, here's your money," and actually you didn't do anything. I think there's fundamentally something wrong with quests that can be completed that can be completed just by the character saying so.
No, I know what you mean. There is a disconnect with you have
reality.
To tell someone that you've completed. You have to tell someone that you've completed a quest, and then they will know that you have. But if you tell them especially in WoW, you can't tell let me start that again. You can't tell a quest giver in WoW that you've completed something if you haven't.
But you have to bear in mind, it doesn't necessarily have to involve you telling the original person, because Eve, for example, is very good at that. If they've sent you to the opposite, 9 solar systems down the road, to deliver something to someone, that person is the person that you hand something into that marks the quest done. That's the point, and they pay you. It's like cash on delivery. I'm
keeping the same paradigm of the quest that Nelson gave the example of one person has asked you to go do something, and it is the person who's giving you that quest who is paying you. In that situation, there is an issue where that character instinctively knows, in the current paradigm of MMOs, that character instinctively knows that you haven't done it.
Well, no.
Let me finish. Let me finish. I'm supporting your argument. Let me finish. That character instinctively knows that you haven't completed it, but you then have to tell them that you have. Which is
right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. There is a gap of information, or there is a inherent knowledge that they can't have. Whereas,
an easy way around that whole argument is just to say that quest turn-ins will never, ever, ever pay you immediately. That they're always going to say, "All right, well, we'll look into it, and as soon as we confirm that your job is done, then you'll get paid." And so you just put in a little 5-minute delay.
Yeah, I do too, and I think it's quest dependent, because, like you say, if it's a delivery type quest, or not a delivery type quest, but a go and get me this type quest.
My pizza's arrived. I will give you the money.
Yeah, you're in a cash and delivery situation anyway. They've got to bring the thing back or send it back. If they choose to send it back, then they're not going to get paid until the person receives it. I really like the idea of
But if you've been asked to kill someone,
because it adds an extra
layer
layer
for it to be on the news for them to realise that this has occurred, or
exactly.
But by then they've respawned.
Goes to stipulation number 6.
Yeah,
respawning.
We're gonna have to have it, man. I'm sorry. We can't.
We are, I know, but
We can't
just
keep
start
coming up with a
endless
brand new,
debate.
unique character every time someone goes crazy and kills everyone in town.
Way
I
disguised.
told you how to fix it. You just have the same character positions with different.
Oh
names.
yeah, with a random name generators. Yep.
It does. It doesn't.
Yep. Ishi McFruiter is now Grabble McGrublob, and they're the same dude with the same model.
I've never understood why it is that only one mobster is the one person you can speak to in the gang. Why is it not possible? You know, there's no reason that the same person has to give the same quest out. The only result that actually has to happen, and again, this is only in Epic Arc or quest chains. The only result that has to happen is that the quest is delivered to the player. Now, whether he gets it from NPC number 10 or NPC number 35 doesn't really matter to the way the game works. So, so there.
Well, see, eventually, though, you're going to run into quests where you will be meeting prominent people.
But
Yes.
they can't die. Let's just say they can't die.
It's all about what sort of it's all about what sort of quest you write. But the thing is, again, we're talking about we're aiming for a persistent world, and a sort of more generic type quest. It's okay to have them respawning, as long as it doesn't happen in front of somebody. Have them respawn in their own house and then come out the door again. It's that simple. But in terms of if a prominent politician gets or prominent
Shall we save this for the
corporation
next
gets
video?
assassinated.
Yeah, because this has very little to do with quests, actually. This has to do with NPCs.
So as far as auto turn-ins go,
I would just leave it as an option.
I think it should be on by default because I just really like that idea, to be honest.
Okay, so since Nelson likes it, that
Yeah.
that means that it should be on by default, which I don't really have a significant problem
No,
with.
I know.
But it should still be an option.
Yeah, it should be an
Decisions have
option.
been made for worse reasons.
Yeah.
My reason for
My
wanting
only-
it my reason for wanting it off as default is because the current paradigm is that is to have no auto turn in.
Right. And
It's a feature,
I agree with
so you should have to turn it on.
But see, the only issue I have with auto turn-ins possibly being off comes back to what NATO was saying, was ultimately if you ever have the option to say yes, I did this quest, or you have the option to delay saying yes, I did this quest, that means that the NPC, your employer, or whomever, is taking you for your word as to whether or not the quest has been completed. See, my
But if
sort
you're
of
ma-
idea, my
If
sort
you're
of
making it a player's choice,
Yeah,
you
well,
lose control over that.
I'm not thinking that conversation should ever take place with like open text. You're not actually typing out that I did it. There's you push a button which says I got it done, and I expect that button to be completely invalidated, grayed out, what have you, until all of the quest requirements are complete. So I don't foresee that ever coming up.
No, it's just a logic issue because at that point, whether or not you completed the quest, it doesn't have to do with your effect on the environment. It has to do with you telling your employer, "I'm done."
Where's the logic in saying that the quest automatically knows when it's done and suddenly you magically get paid for it without having to do anything else to confirm it?
Because all the quests should be something like, "Bring me
I
back
think-
5 items." In which
So
case,
all quests should require that you have to go back to the quest giver to do something? There should never be a go out and just accomplish this task?
or that task somehow, or like it's go out and explore this area and phone me back what you find. When you phone him back what you find, that at that point the guy knows that you did
Which
what
is
you
just like a turn-in anyway for phoning him into saying I'm
This
out
is
here
the
and I
thing.
see
I think
something.
this whole thing. I still have yet to. I still don't understand quite what an auto turn in, what the benefit would be
just an
of.
easier, streamlined interface. Because
Of what? Well, at what point? Either
less
if
player
you've got a
technique.
quest, it's not going to be. It's not going to be usable in a quest where you've got to bring something back or take something back to someone, or even to give it to someone else, because
What do
where
you
the other
think
person is
Nelson wants
paying
to get
for
rid
you.
of?
No, the
Sorry.
question I want to ask is, I don't honestly see a situation. I don't understand what it's for.
I think.
What do you mean
Nelson
by an
wants to
auto
get rid of
turn-in?
Okay,
is-
it's one less button to press. Let's say you're given
Yeah.
a quest to I can make anything up. You're supposed to
Yeah, that's-
go turn on this machine, okay? Which really in the game amounts to you walking over to some location and pressing your use key. An auto turn-in would mean that as soon as you completed that task, the system knows that the quest is done, awards you the completion, and you don't have to turn anything in. You don't have to call anybody up and say it's done. That's it. Checks in the mail.
sweet.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. But
I like that.
Which is great.
unrealistic.
Which is great. All what we've just decided here is that it
So,
should be an
yeah.
option so that Gavin can turn it on and Nelson can turn it off and everybody's happy and we can go on to the next video.
What if it's a piece of equipment or something that updates part of your...
It really is some nanites you inject into your inner ear.
You could have a system that just tells you, you know, quest complete, notifying so-and-so. I mean, again, I'm just picturing a futuristic world.
I don't think you see where I'm getting the problem, and the problem where I'm having the problem with, and the problem that I'm having with this slightly has to do with the
I'm
suspension.
sorry. My ears just got blown up.
I think there should be some downside to using auto turn-ins if you're going to implement them.
What for?
There's just if you're gonna
Nelson,
let-
please don't have a hemorrhage. What were you trying to say?
I was just trying to say that my problem has to do with suspension of disbelief, because to me, if I can tell somebody I did this and he gives me money, to me, and he gives me that money, and he won't give me the money until I tell him that I've done whatever. To me, it seems like it's logically possible for your character just to accept the quest, walk down the street, turn around, walk back to the NPC and say, I did it.
I already addressed that, but I think maybe you stepped out to smoke or something in the middle of the video and didn't tell anybody. I said, if that's a really big concern, then just make it to where there's a delay, and the response from the person that you turn the quest in is, all right, we'll check it out, and as soon as we confirm the quest is done, we'll pay you. And you just throw a 2-minute delay in on your payment.
Okay.
See, you say your problem is the suspension of disbelief, but sorry, you would rather have the ability to just things magically happen without
It's not
telling
magically
you about
happening.
it.
Yes,
Nanotechnology, it's not magic.
I don't even think that has to be that advanced.
I'm not talking about magic, Gavin. I'm just saying that the NPC...
I didn't mean magic literally as like in-game magic. I mean just it happens, i.e. automatically. That is, to me, where I run into suspension of disbelief. If you aren't paying for a job, you've got to do the job and then let the person, if somebody's going to pay you for a job, you either have to wait for them to find out by themselves that it's been done or tell them it's been done or provide evidence of that.
It's pretty cool how UPS is able to actually work these days without nanotechnology. When they bring a package to my door, they hand it to me and they scan the little thing. And I don't even know that it's out there, but I can get online.
There you go. They scanned the little thing.
Right, but something occurred. I mean,
yes, exactly.
To verify that it was indeed done.
Right. They picked up an actual mechanical box and punched an operation into it, which would be analogous to actually calling up and saying, I got this job done. It's just they've got a system by which a message is automatically sent, so they don't have to physically speak to anyone. What the point that I was making is that there's not some nanotechnological chip in that box which automatically contacts the home office as soon as he sets it on the front porch and he just walks away and does nothing.
Well, you could have, when all of the items were put in the individual's truck, you could get to a point in the future where when you pull up at somebody's house, just the fact that item is no longer in the truck and it's outside
UPS
of the range.
could invest all kinds of money in all kinds of wireless equipment, but if your guy was given a job to go up and do like a graffiti tag on the wall, there's not some sort of wireless box tied into the wall that knows when he's done that. We have to keep ourselves open to all kinds of different quests that could be done.
Sure, and I guess that's just the problem I have. We're 1,000 years in the future, or however, I would like to think we're a little bit more advanced with how things could be verified, and as opposed to limiting ourselves to...
So wait a minute, hang on. Which side of this would you like to do? Do you want us to just go ahead and stick with auto turn-ins and that's it?
No, I'm
trying to make sure I understand where you're coming from.
No, I think auto turn-ins could be made to work in a way that makes sense, where things are verified, if you will.
Yeah. I think it wouldn't make sense because
it shouldn't be an option. It should just be kind of the way things work. And what we do as designers is we focus on a way to make this make sense as the way we handle quests.
I think that's not a bad idea.
It's a function of your ability at the mechanic involved in it, I think is what Jason's getting at.
That's correct.
Would be a function of using some item or having some special ability that enables you to automatically turn in things. It's not going to be something that a player chooses to use or not. You have to earn the ability to do it, or there is some punishment, not punishment, but there's delay in payment until it's verified.
Sure.
That doesn't seem unreasonable because at the end of the day, my only problem with them is the reality check of, well, it's just somehow through the ether they found out that it's happened, and these things it's almost like things disappearing out of your inventory for no good reason.
Exactly.
But we're arguing about weird things. I don't think we're all on the same page.
We are, but some of the examples that are coming out are a little interesting.
I mean, Gavin, my point though is that all the quests, I think by definition, if you want to get all I'm not going to even
existential.
Try yeah, that word. If it ultimately boils down to you have some effect on the environment. That effect on the environment, most of the time, is going to be something that could easily get back to the original quest giver.
Yeah, so that'll take time. You have to rely on hopefully him finding out, and when he finds out, he might consider paying you.
Sometimes it could be automatic. Sometimes it might not be. I think most of the times it could be automatic, especially with delivery quests, building quests, shoe shining quests.
Sorry, delivery quests?
Yes.
How would it be automatic?
Because you give the package to a person, the person says, "Hey, quest giver, thanks for sending that package my way."
That's not automatic. You had to give them the thing, idiot.
But we're
easy.
We're missing the turn-ins. Like, what is a turn-in?
Well, the turn-in point for the turn-in point for delivery quest is the person you're delivering it to.
Right, turn-in points differ depending on what kind of quests we're talking about. The kinds of turns-ins, God.
Give me an example of a turn-in where you would an auto turn-in would make sense.
Well,
give me an example of a type of quest where that would make sense.
You don't pay the UPS man.
You've paid in advance in that case.
Delivery. What?
You paid in advance. You gave them your credit card number. They've taken
if you're
anything.
If you're the UPS man and you are delivering a package to someone's house, you deliver
they have to sign for it.
They signed for it.
That gets back to the question.
Yes.
That's the turn-in. This is what I'm saying about them. I don't see a situation in where it makes sense that they exist at all.
You have to define turn-in, because up until this point...
Well, define it then.
That's what I'm about to do. I said up to this point, I've been operating under the assumption that everybody considered turn-ins to simply be going back to the quest giver and saying, "I am finished."
Well, no.
Everything before that point has to do with the actual quest. So giving items to people has to do with the actual quest. Actually going out and surveying the land and phoning the survey company saying that what you found, that's part of the quest. The turn-in, the part that I want to automate, is at least design all the quests so that there's no point in which you have to walk all the way back to this NPC and say, "I'm done." Because, again...
No one's saying that we should... No. You're just... See, because in that example you gave just there, where you've got to go out and survey the land and phone in your results, the point where you turn it in is when you phone in your results.
Then that's what we're talking about when we say auto turn-in.
That's not an auto turn-in. You have to phone the results in.
Yeah, that's actually not. That's actually not what we're talking about.
Phoning up the person.
Okay, hang on. We've carried over, but I guess we might as well go ahead and close the topic out. An auto turn-in was considered to be the moment you actually complete whatever your task was without having to contact anyone. The system automatically says, "Hey, you got this done. Congratulations, the quest is complete."
Sweet, I like that idea.
I know, but don't talk for a minute. I don't have any problem with this being based on an item in the world, with a skill level, with a combination of items and skill levels. I don't care if it is just an option in the native user interface. I think ideally it would be something somebody could turn on and off if they wanted to. If I want total control over when my missions are done so that I actually do get to call somebody up and wrap things up, then I should have that freedom. If for no other reason, then it's been the paradigm for the way things have worked forever. I don't think we need to impose that on anybody. If I'm interested in it becoming a system in the game, I don't have a problem with saying, all right, I'm going to get this injection of nanomachines in my inner ear that automatically knows when all of my quests are done. I'm fine with that. But it does need to be an option, and it does need to be something that somebody could potentially have or not have as they see fit.
Okay.
Does that wrap this up?
Yeah, that's fine. That's going to conclude this video. We'll be back in the next.